So once the specimen processor has processed and relabeled everything, they're going to bring us this urine again with a parent label, and this is that child label, which is important because this is what's going to get read by the instrument. So here we're going to further process our urine. What we're going to do is put a label on these 10 mil conical tubes. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a 10 mil line up there. I have a habit of putting the top of my label at the 10 mil line just so I can see it better. We got to make sure that our urine is well mixed because these tend to settle, especially if there's a lot of sediment in them. So well mixed. We're going to pour the urine up to that line. I went over a little bit, so we're going to toss some of it out. Perfect. Okay, so now we'll be working solely with this specimen here. So these are our Clintic strips. These are multi-stick strips. These have a bunch of tests on here that can get read either manually if you have a timer in case this machine goes down, or these strips can also get read by these machines, which is what we'll show you today. I guess the process here first is to load our patient into here. So it's asking for the color and clarity. What we can do for that is just read it up against our label that we're going to scan. So when we go up to it, you can see that it's a little hazy. You can still see the lines behind the urine sample, but not too clearly. So I would call that hazy. The color, I would call that yellow or straw. So we'll see the options that the machine gives us. Okay, so now that we've made up our mind on color and clarity, we'll load it onto the instrument. I'm gonna go with yellow for urine. Clarity, we're gonna cycle through until we hit slightly cloudy. So there's more options, cloudy, turbid, or other. But we're just gonna keep cycling back until we get to slightly cloudy. Okay, so now we put that info in, it wants us to put in the patient information. And we're simply gonna scan this barcode. It automatically opens the arm, and this is where time is running. So we're gonna dip it, making sure that all the squares are submerged, and then we're gonna place it on the analyzer. It'll sense it and take it in. So now that it's being processed by the analyzer, we're gonna centrifuge this down so that the sediment can concentrate towards the bottom, and then we'll take it over for a microscopic. So let's put that there. Again, this instrument is preset to 2000 RPMs for 5 minutes. So we're just gonna hit play, and you'll see it. Well, you won't see it, but you can see the numbers starting to spin up. So the instrument is done analyzing that strip. It spits it off here. This is all the dirty strips that get tossed at the end of the day. Here's our results. So a couple things you got to take note of here. There are certain things that are going to trigger a microscopic. You could immediately tell that the nitrates is positive because that square turned hot pink immediately. So nitrates, leukocytes, esterase, that's trace. So this is definitely going to reflex for a microscopic, which is why we're spinning it down. So we're going to take our patient sticker, we're going to match the CID, which is this number, to make sure you have the right patient. Then I like to stick it down here. And then I like to place this over the centrifuge so that if another tech comes behind me, they know that there is a positive urine spinning down that needs a microscopic. Once it's done spinning, it'll show 0. We'll open this up and we'll take our urine out. So then you'll see that all the sediment got pushed down to the bottom, or got centrifuged down to the bottom. So now I'll take my lid off. That gets tossed. Here's a pipette. We're gonna insert it all the way to the bottom. So I'm gonna pour this out. It's going to pour just this part of the liquid, and it's going to reserve this part of the urine. Okay, so as you can see, we got 1 ml of urine with the sediment at the bottom. We're gonna resuspend that sediment in that ml of urine. So now we're gonna resuspend it by just pressing and letting go of the pipette bulb. And so that's sucking up and pushing down urine. At the same time, it's beating up that pellet that was at the bottom and resuspending it into that ml of urine. So you can see that it's mostly resuspended. It's super cloudy now, and that's what we're going to look at under the microscope. And we're going to do some quantitative analysis on that. Okay, so then here we're going to load a resuspended urine sediment pellet into one of these Cova slides. What this is going to do, it's going to create a real thin layer of cells. It's just one cell thick layer. And that's going to allow us to see it under the microscope and not have so many cells stacked up, so then we can differentiate what kind of stuff is in the urine. So we're quantitating what we see. So we'll start off with the 10x objective, looking at squamous cells and casts. I see 6 to 10 squamous. I'm gonna write what I see down on here because I'm gonna take this to the computer and result the microscopic part. Okay, now I'm gonna go deeper to the 40x. Definitely a ton of bacteria, so I'm gonna go with greater than 500 bacteria on that. Also lots of white cells, so 11 to 25 whites and 3 to 5 reds. And you want to look at multiple fields and get your average of what you see. Okay, nothing else stands out. I'm also looking for yeast. I don't see any here, so I think we're done with this guy. Once we're done using up a well, we're going to cross it off so that it doesn't get loaded with another patient's urine on there. Then we can discard this since we're done with it here. So now we've reviewed our sediment under the microscope. We're going to put in the microscopic results in the computer. Our macroscopic results are automatically uploaded into the software because our Clinitech instrument is interfaced. So we don't really have to make any changes to the macroscopic part. All right, so in order to put in our microscopic results, we're gonna go into Urinalysis result entry. Different keyboards for different things. We're gonna do this keyboard here at Bellevue. We're gonna scan our patient. So as you can see here, all the results that are printed off from the macroscopic results are transferred into here through the LIS interface. So everything that's on here is pretty much is on here. So all we're gonna do now is put in what we saw under the microscope. So we're gonna hit the squamous button, 6 to 20. Okay, then we saw greater than 500 bacteria. So we're gonna do bacteria, greater than 500. Saw 11 to 25 white blood cells. So here's 11 to 25. And lastly, I saw 3 to 5 red blood cells. So here's our red blood cells, 3 to 5. So we're going to enter. Last thing we're going to do here is review our results before we officially submit them and have them go on to the patient's chart. So when we hit this QA review tab, it once again shows what the instrument read, which should match what it printed, and it shows us what we just entered into the computer according to what we saw under the microscope. So again, squamous 6 to 20, red blood cells 3 to 5, white blood cells 11 to 25, bacteria greater than 500, and it also adds some final codes that translate to different comments depending on what the urine was. For example, if we had a super bloody urine, we could add in a code that said grossly bloody urine. Some analytes might be falsely elevated since it's like a colorimetric reading of the pads. So this is where we want to make those reviews, make sure that all the right codes got appended. And then we're going to hit save. And now it gets pushed into the patient's chart for the doctors and nurses to review. So depending on how the doctor ordered this urine test, sometimes they'll allow it to reflex to a microbiology culture. Sometimes it doesn't reflex. In this instance, I don't think it reflexed. I'll double check though. Yeah, I don't see an order here that it auto reflex, but depending on how the doctors ordered it, sometimes when you have positive leukocytes and nitrates, it'll reflex to a urine culture. When it does that, we'll have to take some urine from the original container and transfer it into these urine culture vacutainers. This will get sent out over to our microbiology department to get cultured. The bacteria will grow, and then they're going to do all of their sensitivities and whatnot with it. So once we're done with the urine, we need to store the original container in the fridge in case the doctor wants to put in any further orders on a urine down the road. We want to preserve it as long as possible. Here at Bellevue, we store them for up to 2 days in the fridge. So in order to store them, we're going to go into our Smart tab. We're going to go to Processing. We're going to go to Rack Assignment. We're going to go into the rack, the urine rack that is made up for the day. And so here we'll scan the urine barcode. And it added it on to this rack 6962 into spot number 12. So now it's telling us that spot 13 is available to rack any future urines. Okay, so now that it's racked, we'll just take this over to the fridge and put it into the little rack. So today you've seen us process samples using our SunQuest system. Different hospitals have different instruments and different applications. This is just how we do it here at Bellevue in Nebraska Medicine.